I've got a question for you. Do you like hurting other people? I mean, look, we've all clicked on bad guys in our time. That's nothing special. What I'm talking about is that feeling when your crosshair snaps to your enemy's dome.
Damn! What the fuck?
When your surroundings just melt away and you feel one with the game. The visceral satisfaction of chaining headshots together. Flight fails where fight succeeds, and you're filled with pure, unbridled adrenaline. Alright, now that I've grabbed your attention, I can drop the edgy persona and start boring you with words. The first 7 of which will be, what the hell even is an adrenaline shooter? That's exactly what I thought when I read this comment under a trailer for a game I'll be talking about later. This guy gets it. This comment stuck with me because it gave a name to a growing genre that I've become infatuated with. So, what I've attempted to do is create a small list of requisite features a game must have in order to fall under this theoretical genre. Hear me out. An adrenaline shooter is a game, typically FPS, that punishes downtime, rewards speed, and requires accuracy. Let's break this down a bit. By downtime, I'm talking about things like not actively engaging in combat, peacefully walking from point A to point B, backtracking, things of that nature. The punishment for downtime usually involves draining the player's health, eventually killing them, or giving the player a bad rank at the end of the level or run. Speed refers to things like how fast you're traversing the stage and your reaction time. Doing these things well may yield things like higher ranks, score health bonuses, and in a weird way, less pressure. We'll come back to this. Finally, when I say the game requires accuracy, I'm saying that it's fairly unforgiving when it comes to missing shots, sloppy movement, or blindly rushing through the game. If you hit a guy in the chest when you should have hit him in the head, well, you're dead, baby. Before we talk about games that I do consider adrenaline shooters, let's first talk about games I don't. Counter-Strike, for example, almost sounds like a good candidate because it requires accuracy and rewards speed, but it doesn't punish downtime. In fact, it's sort of built into the core of the game, right? Risk of Rain 2 punishes downtime by making the game harder the longer you take to progress, and as a result, rewards speed. However, it really doesn't require accuracy, especially when you consider characters have aimbot, AoEs, and big melee swings. And for a third example, I want to talk about a special case that deserves more than a brief look. Right off the bat! I want to immediately make it clear. Hotline Miami on its own, by my own definition, is not an adrenaline shooter. This is because while yes, the game does reward speed, and accuracy is definitely required. See how far you can get spraying and praying. Downtime is not punished in a meaningful way during regular gameplay, and that's not a bad thing. Hotline Miami is phenomenal for so many reasons, not the least of which is the many different ways the game allows the player to approach it. Some people might choose to fly through the level guns blazing, searching for and immediately exploiting options as they present themselves during their massacre. However, another and completely valid way of playing the game is to slowly, carefully, and strategically make your way through the level, studying the layout, the enemies, and their movement patterns. This is not an option in adrenaline shooters. If you slow down, you lose. However, if your goal is to get an A+ rank, suddenly the game actually does qualify, because now downtime is severely punished. You need to move fast if you want mom to be proud of your report card. And that's pretty fucking rad if you ask me. Study the level, master it, and then prove your mastery by breaking it over your knee. Hotline Miami is still talked about and referenced 12 years later because it absolutely perfected its formula first try, and has inspired so many games, a few of which are in this video. After all this time, it really hasn't been replicated since Wrong Number. Hopefully Kusan can go the distance. No pressure. This video you're watching right now would not exist without Post Void. This game came out back in 2020, but I only played it last year. It's a very short game. It only took me a little over an hour to fully achievement hunt the whole thing from start to finish. But it was such a bizarre and unique experience that I haven't stopped thinking about it. The game works like this. You have an idol that slowly leaks fluid over time. If all the fluid drains from the idol, you lose, and have to start the game over from the beginning. In order to fill the idol back up, you have to kill enemies. And you have to be quick, because this fucking thing empties fast, and each kill only fills it a couple drops. On top of that, getting hit will empty a large portion of the idol immediately. Headshots will take enemies down in one hit, but body shots will take far more, such that it's impossible to make it very far without consistently hitting heads. You also have the ability to perform a slide, which provides a brief speed boost and helps with traversing quicker. This, my friends, is the perfect formula for an adrenaline shooter. We have a punishment for downtime, a reward for speed, and an accuracy requirement. The game is absolutely seeping, pun intended, with atmosphere and charm. The whole game warps as if the rooms were waves in the ocean. The pixel art is so stylized, unique, and flat out weird. It meshes beautifully with the bizarre story to produce an avant-garde masterpiece for the price of 2 cups of coffee. Post Void fucking rips, and I highly recommend it. Post Void ran so that Mullet Majak could fly. Released over 3.5 years later, Hammer 95 was like, alright, I see what you're going for here. We're gonna go ahead and take that and expand upon it in every conceivable way possible. Thank you very much. The slide has been replaced with a dash kick. Doors separate the rooms to keep you guessing where enemies will be. Environmental hazards allow for new ways to kill enemies and require precise maneuvering. Healing soda and items to perform executions are placed throughout the intricate levels. There's wall running, boss fights, new mechanics, and enemies added with each new chapter, different game modes, difficulty options, the list goes on. One of the biggest improvements, in my opinion, is the way they removed any and all ambiguity from the game. You no longer have an undefined amount of time denoted by liquid splashing around inside an idol. Instead, you have a very literal timer counting seconds down from 10, and once again, killing enemies will fill the timer back up. However, this game increased the amount of options for doing so significantly. As previously mentioned, environmental hazards are now littered throughout the level that you can exploit by, for example, kicking an enemy into exposed wiring, or shooting and exploding a fire extinguisher next to a group of enemies. These award more time than simply using your gun, which adds a lot to the equation. Now you're not just reacting to the enemies, but also to their position in the level and the level design surrounding them. Most enemies will die in one hit, headshot or otherwise. Of course, to balance this, body shots award less time than headshots. In fact, on harder difficulties, time is only awarded when you hit heads. So that thing I said a few minutes ago? If you hit a guy in the chest when you should have hit him in the head, well, you're dead, baby. That applies double here. Finding and kicking a vending machine will yield cans of soda, which you can also find hidden throughout the levels. These will completely refill your timer over a brief period. Similarly, you can find items like meat cleavers or hatchets that you can use to perform executions that also completely refill your timer. These mechanics are perfect for creating incredibly tense moments where you're on 1 second remaining, you're about to lose, and then... Whew, that was close. And this is all without mentioning the immaculate presentation. The music is unbelievable. That opening tune is, bellissimo. The graphics are chef's kiss. From the in-game sprites to the heads-up display and even menus. The writing is funny. Jack will spout one-liners just like a 90s action movie protagonist would. Except it's all solid life advice.
Don't fall in love with your overlords. Learn how the system works. Enjoy your own company. Stop complaining about the little things. Learn rhetoric. Find the funny in things. Like, comment, and subscribe.
The voice acting is wonderful too. You can tell everyone was having a great time, especially the streamer. She nailed those cheesy English dub inflections.
We'll triangulate her location. Right now, she's right in front of you! Watch out!
I seriously need to stop myself here, or else this video would be twice as long as it already is. Just go download the free demo on Steam and give it a try right now. You get to play the first 2 chapters, and I promise it's worth it. Here we have another case where on its own the game isn't quite an adrenaline shooter, but it constantly asks you to play it like one. Each level in this game features 3 stars to earn, 1 for completing the level, and then 2 that are earned through completing certain objectives within the stage. These can range from stomping on all the cockroaches in a level, to completing it wearing a specific pair of shoes, to, you guessed it, completing time trials. Most of the time you're free to tackle the levels as you wish, and that includes slowly. But if you want to get 3 stars on all of these levels, then yeah, no downtime allowed. Not only that, but the enemies in this game are fucking vicious. They hit scan blast your ass the literal frame they see you, and you can only take a couple shots before bleeding out. This means leaving enemies alive for longer than a second is ill-advised at best. Missing your shots during a speedrun is not going to end well for you. However, even if we ignore the time trials, there is a particular pair of shoes that actually drains your health over time and refills when you kill enemies. Sound familiar? I mean, assuming you're wearing these shoes, the whole game could theoretically be an adrenaline shooter. With all that said, I have to admit, Angerfoot? Dude, I'm gonna fucking punch my— made me angry foot. I love this game. I really do. The whole soundtrack is one nasty hardstyle banger after the next. The guns feel amazing to use, and I adore throwing empty weapons to stun enemies over reloading a la Hotline Miami. Kicking doors off their hinges and sending enemies flying down hallways feels rad as fuck, and the visuals are mad charming. I love how society is completely built around crime in this world, and how all the NPCs are completely batshit insane. The writing is so committed to being unapologetically crude and repulsive, and I commend it for sticking to it throughout the whole experience. But it's not perfect, not even close. First of all, what I said before about enemies shooting you the same frame they see you was not hyperbole. It happens all the fucking time, and it sucks ass. Like, there's a door between you and the next room. The only way to progress is to kick it down, and the moment you do, you get shot before you would ever be able to react. That feels like shit, especially when you're going for no damage stars. Like in Hotline, enemies are quick to see you, but they still give you a second to actually do something before ending you. Another complaint I have is with the optimization, of which there is 0. Look, I don't have a NASA-level computer, but it's nothing to scoff at, and this game certainly doesn't look like it should be too demanding, and yet, this! What the fuck is this? The devs have already made it clear they're working on it, but this isn't an early access game, it's fully released. Now, despite these complaints, I did still love my time with the game so much that I fully achievement hunted it. I'd love to see more of this game in the future, and if they can manage to improve upon it. But as it stands, it's a great game, barred by a couple hiccups.
Body destroyed.
Everything I'm about to say is based on a pre-release demo that is no longer available for download at this time. As such, I'm not going to be too critical of this game, seeing as how the version I played is not the finished product. All that being said, I'm thoroughly impressed by what I've played. Like Hotline Miami and Angerfoot, there's nothing stopping you from taking things slow if that's how you want to approach it. But when going for completion, this game has a really interesting take on much of what we've talked about today. We have a letter grading system here that's based entirely off your timer. You start out at S rank, and as the timer falls below certain thresholds, your rank diminishes. Killing enemies adds time back to the meter, and depending on how flashy that kill was, you'll get more or less time. Headshots, for example, add half a second. A throwing knife will net more. Simply hitting a guy with a piece of wood will give less, so on and so forth. What this means for somebody going for S rank is that simply being accurate and moving fast won't cut it. You also have to be stylish. And the game is more than happy to help you achieve that. Enemies don't just drop their weapons at their feet when they go down. They come flying towards you, ready for you to catch them midair, all John Wick style. This game gives you all the tools you need to become a badass action movie star, and with enough patience and practice, that's exactly what you'll become. There's also optional side objectives for you to unlock and complete, which is fantastic for replayability and pushing you past your limits as a player. If I could praise just one more thing about this game and other games like it, it's the decision to forego reloading as a feature. Call it a hot take if you want, but reloading in games all about go, shoot, bang, kill makes no sense to me. When I'm blasting heads, the last thing I want to do in the whole world is stop blasting heads for any reason.
How do you feel about reloading guns, personally? Where you stand on this?
I think it gives a pause for you to have to strategically make sure that you can, it's a risk and reward.
Well, if you got all these zombies running towards you, who wants to stop shooting them? That's why Doom was so good and everyone loved Doom, because you could just jump around and keep shooting them. But the reload animations in these Left 4 Dead games are like, you shoot for a second, reload for 4.
Can you two shut the fuck up back there?
Hotline, Angerfoot, and now this game all feature combat centered around picking up a weapon, using it, and then comboing into another weapon on the fly. Why would I want to reload when throwing my empty gun at some nerd's head and taking his weapon feels 9,001 times more satisfying? Ugh, I cannot wait to get my hands on the full game when it comes out. Alright, this is the part where I come clean with you, viewer. All of this adrenaline shooter stuff was just an excuse to talk about these games I really like. I'm sure there are games out there that would meet the criteria I laid out in this video and have absolutely nothing in common with the games I talked about today. There's almost certainly a handful of ways I could refine my definition of what an adrenaline shooter is. If you can think of any, let me know down in the comments. I'd love to hear your ideas. Oh, speaking of, if you happen to know of any games that fit this description, let me know. I'd love to check them out. In any case, thanks so much for listening to me yap about pixels. I'll see you around, internet strangers.